The mud clung to everything. It coated boots, rifles, helmets. A thin mist drifted along the tree line in the early light. A young American soldier crouched behind a fallen trunk and watched frost settle on the grass. He smelled cordite from the night's scattered fire. In his hands rested a Browning automatic rifle. The metal carried scars from months in the field. Rust traced the edges of the barrel and receiver. Other men had laughed at it and called it a museum piece. He rubbed the grip with a cold hand and looked across the field toward the German line. Shapes moved between smoke and the ruined stone walls. He heard engines in the distance and the shift of enemy boots on frozen ground. He waited for the next push. The Ardennes remained tense in January 1945. The German winter offensive had lost momentum, but many units still tried to create space for withdrawal. Small towns across Belgium and Luxembourg changed hands multiple times. Roads became lifelines for both sides as columns fought for supply routes. A ridge or crossroads often shaped the fate of entire battalions. The United States First Army held defensive lines that stretched from forest to open farmland. Infantry divisions rotated forward, relieved exhausted regiments, and endured bitter cold. The thick pine forests gave German patrols room to maneuver. The open fields favored American firepower and exposed assault teams. Artillery units worked without pause. Reconnaissance squads tracked movement on both sides. Each decision carried weight because every advance or retreat influenced the larger push toward the German border. The bar had served since World War I. By 1945, it stood older than many who carried it. It delivered steady, automatic fire, but weighed more than the rifles around it. Many soldiers preferred lighter carbines. Others disliked the bar for its limited magazine capacity. Spare parts often arrived late. Weather punished the metal. Rain and snow left stains that looked like decay. Despite these issues, the bar remained vital. It anchored squad tactics and provided suppressive bursts that allowed riflemen to maneuver. A skilled gunner could turn the tide of a close fight. The young soldier carrying the rusted weapon understood this role and accepted its burden. German units operated with growing shortages. Fuel ran low. Ammunition production could not keep pace with demand. Many divisions lacked full strength. Veteran soldiers had been replaced by younger recruits, yet discipline remained rigid. Commanders demanded counterattacks to delay Allied progress. Mortar, machine guns, and Panzerfaust teams supported infantry pushes. Even small groups fought with determination because their orders remained simple. Hold ground, slow the enemy. Buy time. The village near the American line had lost most of its roofs. Walls stood open to the wind. Burned carts blocked narrow alleys. Rubble shaped every movement. Snipers watched from hidden angles. Both armies used shattered walls as firing positions. When dawn neared, reconnaissance reported increased German activity east of the field. Tracks in the snow showed fresh movement. The American platoon prepared for another attack. They deepened their fighting holes, adjusted their firing arcs, and checked ammunition carefully. The human angle formed around quiet responsibility. The bar gunner carried a weapon others dismissed. He had no fresh oil left in his kit. He had cleaned the gun with rags torn from old uniforms. He learned to coax reliability from worn springs. Another soldier joked that the gun belonged in a crate. He ignored the comments. He focused on the field. His job remained simple and heavy. Provide fire, hold the line. Keep the weapon functioning long enough to make a difference. The tactical picture centered on the field stretching nearly 200 meters to a ridge that curved left. A small copse of trees stood in the middle. If German forces captured that ground, they could fire into the American flank. They could also push toward the road and disrupt supply movement. The platoon relied on overlapping arcs of fire. The bar sat near the center in a shallow depression. Riflemen held the outer edges. A machine gun team positioned themselves higher on the right to control the approach to the trees. Mortar crews waited behind the line. The technological angle showed contrast. The bar used a proven .30 caliber cartridge and a sturdy design that tolerated dirt. Its age did not erase its strength. German units carried a mix of rifles, including Sturmgewehrs, older Mausers, and captured weapons. Many MG-42s remained in service. Their rate of fire created intense pressure. German commanders often built assaults around these guns. American soldiers recognized the MG-42's distinct rhythm and new suppression required fast, accurate response. The enemy perspective carried tension. German defenders on the ridge held thin numbers. Officers feared encirclement. They saw increased American artillery and expected another advance. They chose to strike first. Surprise might disrupt American organization. A concentrated assault under smoke could overwhelm the center. They prepared mortar rounds, coordinated machine gun positions, and gathered assault teams for a quick push across the field. The turning point arrived after sunrise. A German mortar round arched overhead and exploded behind the American line. More followed. Soil and splinters sprayed the trenches. Riflemen pressed low. Smoke rolled across the field and blurred visibility. German infantry charged in small groups. Their boots cracked the frozen surface. Their rifles fired as they ran. 2 MG-42s opened from the ridge and swept the field with long bursts. The American center faced the full force. The bar gunner saw shapes moving fast through the smoke. He steadied his weapon and squeezed the trigger. The gun hesitated, then fired. The first burst cut into the lead group. 2 Germans fell. The rest scattered. More emerged behind them. Rounds snapped overhead. The gunner reloaded quickly. Mortar teams called for fire adjustments. Artillery support would take time. The firefight tightened. On the right flank, the machine gun jammed. The cold had seized part of its mechanism. German assault teams pressed toward the trees. Riflemen fired rapidly, but the pressure increased. The bar became the hinge of the defense. The gunner shifted toward the right and delivered bursts that pinned German squads. Snow leaped around their boots as rounds struck the ground. Officers shouted for their men to move, but progress slowed. A second wave appeared. These soldiers carried Panzerfausts. They reached the American line. The defense would collapse. The bar gunner set his stance and opened fire again. He suppressed the rocket teams before they reached cover. The squad leader called for reinforcement, but no one could move under the MG-42 bursts. The gunner targeted the machine gun positions. His rounds forced one crew to shift and another to pause. Even a short disruption changed the tempo of the assault. The bar heated quickly. Smoke curled from the barrel. The gunner fired in controlled bursts to prevent failure. German troops reached the midpoint of the field. Some crawled, others sprinted. Each movement risked exposure. Each attempt to regroup drew fire from the bar. A nearby rifleman slid spare magazines toward the gunner. His gloves were soaked. He kept going. German officers saw their momentum break. Casualties covered the lower slope. Without steady MG-42 support, coordination failed. When the bar suppressed the machine guns again, the platoon regained control of the field. Mortar crews dropped rounds into the center. Explosions forced German soldiers back toward the ridge. The attack lost all shape. The assault ended. The aftermath revealed the cost. German troops withdrew to secondary positions and carried the wounded from the field. Their losses were heavy. They left damaged weapons and equipment scattered across the snow. Their officers reported failure and asked to fall back. Many units no longer had the strength for another push. The American platoon counted its own losses. Several riflemen suffered shrapnel wounds. A machine gunner required evacuation after the malfunction left him exposed. The trench line carried marks from the bombardment, but the position held. The road behind them stayed open. Supply crews continued their work. Higher command noted the defense and allocated reinforcements to weaker sectors. The rusted bar earned quiet respect. Soldiers who had mocked it understood what it had delivered. The gunner never claimed personal credit. He recognized the role of every man on the line. Yet reports recorded steady automatic fire from the center as a decisive factor. The aging weapon had shaped the turning point at a critical moment. German forces withdrew steadily after the failed assault. The First Army advanced. Towns that had shifted between both sides finally fell under Allied control. The front began moving toward the Rhine. Each step forward carried losses, and each defended position carried weight in the broader campaign. Reflection grew as winter eased. The fight demonstrated that reliability mattered more than appearance. Weapons with age still shaped outcomes. Soldiers who understood their tools gained advantages that numbers alone could not provide. The engagement showed how a single disciplined position could alter the momentum of a battlefield. A rusted bar in capable hands helped break a determined counterattack. The field returned to silence once the front moved east. Its lesson endured as a record of resilience in the final winter of the war.